My name's Andre Miller. Thank you so much for coming. This session today is the Service Cloud for small to mid-sized companies. We're gonna spend a lot of time today talking about implementation and best practices. We have two customer speakers. Elizabeth Marcourt from RealPage is going to talk about her implementation, as well as Siebel on-premise replacement. And Barry Sobel from Belnick is going to be talking about his implementation as well, which is actually a lot more focused on call center and order management processes, so you'll hear a lot about that. Safe Harbor, which I'm sure everybody's heard many times over. It's on the website. If you want to read it, feel free. And from an agenda standpoint, these are the different things we're going to go through. Covered introductions really quickly, just to mention, I'm a sales engineer with Salesforce, so I actually work with corporate sales team. Kevin Coates at the back of the room is one of our account executives. From a technical standpoint, when I'm sure you've engaged with the team. Before we go through the agenda, I just wanted to get a feel for the different people in the room. Can you just raise your hand if you are if you're more focused on the sales side, or if you're leveraging the support process today within Salesforce? So brand new, or people that are more sales and marketing focused. Okay. And what about support, customer support? Okay. And what about IT? Do we have IT people? Great. Okay. So that gives us a feel for the audience. So here's what we're going to cover. So service and support best practices. I'll talk a little bit about that at a high level. Implementation success tips. And then we're going to just jump right in. So within about 5 minutes, jump right into the RealPage story from Elizabeth, as well as the Belnick story. And we'll wrap up. And we'll leave some time for 10-15 minutes at the end for questions. And then certainly feel free to come up at the end if you have more detailed questions you want to ask the team. So just to talk a little bit about some of the things to think about as you're getting started with service and support. If you're familiar with Salesforce already, you're going to hear a lot today about how easy it is to customize, how easy it is to go through that point-and-click and implementation process. But some of the other things that you want to keep in mind from an implementation standpoint really start to cover around your specific and unique business process, and focusing first on your channels. So where are all of the different, where are your cases coming from, whether it be the phone, the customer portal, through chat, or through email, and getting a feel for whether it be percentages or kind of what those core channels are. You can then start to think about what the process needs to be to be able to address those. The self-service strategy. So do you currently have a self-service strategy? Are you leveraging downloads or patches and those types of things that you're pushing to the web? Making sure you include that as part of it as well. With Salesforce, you can iterate really quickly, whether the self-service strategy is something you roll out with phase 1 or you do it as a follow-on. It's really great to have that forward-looking thought in mind as you're thinking about the implementation. The other thing that I think you'll hear a lot about today is really around the other departments and teams. So, obviously sales and marketing is a core group of users that typically use Salesforce, the customer support organizations. But as you'll hear from both of the speakers today, what other groups that potentially have the ability to access that information and can get value out of the data that you're going to be storing in Salesforce? The accounting team, people that are tracking orders, the warehouse. So you can start to think about some of those other groups. Again, you might not roll them out initially, but to have that forward-looking thought in advance and to know that really that information excuse me, can be very valuable to anybody within the organization. And certainly we have the ability to empower all users to have that access and that information at their fingertips. Couple other things to keep in mind. The App Exchange, which I'm sure people in the room have probably heard a lot about, is just a really great place to go to if you want to extend Salesforce into a lot of different areas. So the drawing we're having today is actually from the App Exchange team, but the point being that there's over 800 pre-integrated applications with Salesforce. Some of them are free. There's about 300 out there that are free. Others are from best-of-breed partners. And it's just a really great place to go first to see what's there and what's available that you could potentially leverage to grow into the specific areas that you want to for your company. And again, you'll hear a lot about that today as well. And then finally, to keep in mind are release cycles. So Salesforce releases new functionality 3 times a year. pretty typical February, June, and October timeframes. It's really great to have that in as part of your plan as well so that you can start leveraging some of that new functionality as it comes available, and to really prepare for that, because it is a process that you want to be able to stay on top of. There's upwards of 100 features in each new release, so there's a lot of great things. Some you may leverage, some you might not, but just to know that those are there and to have that as part of your strategy from an implementation standpoint. And then just a couple of tips from a success standpoint, and this is actually from our implementation team. Certainly happy to drill into these in more detail, and I'm sure people have in other sessions. But really some of the key tenets are really around the iteration. So you're going to roll out Salesforce on day one from a customer support standpoint. It doesn't have to be, the process that you roll out on day one could actually be, you could completely change it or make iterations to it a month or 2 months later. It's not like you're pouring concrete around something and then that's set in stone. You absolutely have the ability to roll out the product, roll out the application, and then very, very quickly make changes to suit the business based on user feedback or based on, a new process that you might want to roll out. Dashboards are critical. So when you think about the metrics that you want to drive, the behavior that you want to drive for your team, really making sure that you think about some of that and some of those core metrics from a data standpoint as well as from a reporting standpoint, and have some of that as part of your first release. Those are really the things that start to drive adoption, start to drive usability. People are getting a lot of productivity and benefits, especially obviously from a management standpoint, around being able to see what's happening with the business and what type of metrics you want to drive towards. Integration is very important. Some companies do it right away. Others will wait till a phase 2 process. You'll hear a lot about that today as well. But think about how you can, how you might want to connect all your systems together. There's so many different ways to interface with Salesforce that thinking through maybe initially how more of a batch process and then maybe more real time down the road, you can have that as part of your strategy as well. And then just the last two to touch on really quickly, I think that feeds to what I said in the last slide, that really leveraging and managing and looking at every channel and then looking at the portal. Creating self-service and really empowering your customers to be able to solve some of their own problems is certainly the way everybody's headed. So having a strategy and having a process for that is typically really important, even right out of the gate. All right. So with that, I'll hand it off to Elizabeth.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Marquardt. I am a CRM project manager for RealPage. And RealPage we are actually a SaaS company ourselves. We are a recognized leader in the multifamily property management software. So our core business is providing software to the apartment industry. We are headquartered in Dallas, and we have offices here in San Francisco as well as Irvine, Vermont, India. And we have right around 1,000 employees. Our customer base represents more than 30,000 communities, and our customers range anywhere from large real estate management firms to single-family rental homes. And we service the conventional, affordable student living. We just broke into the senior living market as well as the military housing market. And our SaaS products help to automate the leasing, renting, management, and accounting for these property management companies. So what did our product support look like before Salesforce? We were actually on a Siebel on-premise deployment, and that deployment was on its last leg. And so we really had a decision to make whether or not we were going to try to resurrect that deployment or whether or not we wanted to move completely off of it and onto something else. And being a SaaS company ourselves, we chose a SaaS solution, and that was Salesforce. Our sales team was already using Salesforce for opportunity management, and we were really looking for that 360-degree view of our client, so it made sense to switch over. So what did it look like before? We had extreme performance issues. Just to pull open cases for our Dallas office alone would take, sometimes the hourglass would spin for 20 minutes. And the search function was so painful. You would go to search like John Smith for a contact, and the hourglass would just spin for like 5 minutes. So sometimes. So needless to say, the hourglass was not exactly our friend. And then we had very painful manual manipulation of data for reporting. Our product support managers were the ones who had to crunch all of these numbers, and we estimate that it was about 190 hours per month that were burned on data manipulation. So our product support managers were not only were they not able to manage the way that we wanted them to or the way that they wanted to, but also they were not able to focus on the client and its customer support. So that should be your number one goal. So needless to say, with all of that time burned on crunching numbers, once they actually got the report completed, the numbers were old already. So we certainly did not have real-time reporting. And then another productivity issue that we had were emails had to be cut and pasted into the Siebel record. So any email that came in, requesting a new case, basically, they would cut and paste it. And then any email that came in pertaining to an existing case, they had to go research it, figure out which case it was, and then cut and paste it into that record as well. As you can see, I have a theme here, and that's time, and that's because that's what we were doing. We were burning time. System downtime was required for any kind of customization, including just adding one field, and customizations were not easily made. So we moved to Salesforce, and how did we do it? Well, first off, because we had such a painful deployment in Siebel, we had to do this quickly. So we had 60 days to do it. We actually originally slotted 45, and we completed it in 60 because of scheduling issues. But first off, we deployed that full sandbox. We didn't have one previously, and I would highly recommend that for this. Then we integrated with one of our back-end systems, and we migrated our contacts over from Siebel. We only migrated our contacts because we had such a tight timeline. We needed to do this so quickly. We integrated with the back-end system to reduce the amount of migration that we had to do, and then brought over the contacts. So on our go live date, basically our product support agents, any existing case, they worked in Siebel, and any new case they created in Salesforce. Certainly if you had more time to deploy, you could migrate your historical information over, but because things were so painful, it was more important for us to be up and running than to migrate in the beginning. Then we developed our page layouts in Sandbox, and we tested and trained in Sandbox as well. I have 3 must-haves if I was going to do it again, and that first is that full sandbox that I talked about. Very, very important for the implementation. Second is DBAMP. DBAMP is an App Exchange partner, and it's an integration middleware, and that's what we use for our integration with our backend system. I know there are a lot of other integration partners out there on the App Exchange. This is the one that we had, and we've been very happy with it. And then lastly is Demand Tools. Demand Tools is a data cleansing tool, and I cannot say enough about it. I can't live without it. It helped us to identify the duplicates in our system and clean them when we migrated those contacts over. So the key features that we implemented, first and foremost, were those reports and dashboards. Because reporting was so painful in our Siebel deployment, the reports and dashboards are our number one key feature and our number one productivity booster to have that real-time metric. And then we also implemented email to case. And email to case allows you to set up a routing address. Ours is support@realpage.com, where any email that comes into that inbox creates a case in Salesforce automatically without the need to have to cut and paste. So, and then also another great feature of that, of email to case, is if there is an existing case open in the system and an email comes in pertaining to that in the thread, it automatically finds that open case and adds the email to the case without you having to cut and paste. So major productivity booster for us. And then web to case. We actually had a web form out on our website with our Siebel deployment, so it was very easy to just switch that over into Salesforce. And then mobile access. So not only were we able to give our product support managers and supervisors real-time metrics, but we were, with the mobile light version, we were actually able to give them their numbers in their hand. So now they can not only manage better and have more time to manage, but they actually have the Salesforce app on their iPhones, and they walk the aisles now with their numbers in their hand. So they're able to manage, and they're able to focus on the customer like they want to. And then the console. The console, in case you're not aware, it allows you to parse out your screen so that you can have a list view at the top, and then your case detail at the bottom, and maybe contact information on the side. So it allows the agent to look at all the information that they need to look at without having to flip through different tabs. And this was really important for us because we had such a short time to implement. We wanted to try to mimic what we could from our Siebel deployment as far as field names and like screen layout at least for them, so that we could decrease our training time. And this allowed us to do that. It's a mixed bag. We have some agents that absolutely love it and can't live without it. We have some agents that prefer the full page version of their case detail. But to have the option of the console or the full page is really great, and we didn't have that at Siebel. So the benefits of deploying in Salesforce, first and foremost, is that 360-degree view of our client. Absolutely our number one benefit. I think the customer gets better support from the enterprise as a whole because of it. And then the real-time metrics. I had one of our product support managers came to me after we deployed and said, you don't know what it means to me to get up on a Sunday morning and not have to crunch numbers, but actually have them delivered to me via schedulable dashboards or reports. So third, we really increased our productivity, which I've already talked about. And then we were also able to decrease our training time. We estimate that it was only about 2 hours per agent for training. Lessons learned, if I had to do it again. First, on that email routing address, we had an existing email inbox that we used for new cases, but I was not aware of how much internal use they used that email inbox for. So sales would CC that inbox, and so any email that comes into that inbox will create a case. So really examine how that's being used before you set up email to case, so that you can pull the exception rules out to prevent those cases, junk cases, from being created, or just set up a completely new routing address. Second, review the data quality of your legacy or backend system before you integrate. I was aware that we had some data quality issues, but I wasn't quite aware. It just would have been better to have reviewed it thoroughly on the front end so that we had a better action plan once we integrated. And then third is to train management on reporting needs. We actually did train management on reporting, on how to do reports and what all their reporting needs were, but our major focus was on the agent. And if I had to do it over again, I'd focus just as much on the manager and their reporting needs and management's use of the system as I did on the agent. So what's next for RealPage in our Service Cloud deployment? We're looking for CTI integration, so that we can have the screen pops of the contact information once they call in. I think that would be another productivity booster. We're also looking to integrate with our customer portal. We have an existing customer portal, and we want to give our customers the option for self-service support. And then we're also looking to implement a knowledge base. We did not do that in phase one. We have an external wiki that we use, and we wanted to go through a cleansing process before we implement the knowledge base, but that's definitely high on our list. And then last, our new channels. We're looking to implement a chat channel, and then we're also really excited about the new Twitter and Facebook capability that's out there. So thank you, and we look forward to the new features that Salesforce has.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. And we'll hold questions for now, but we'll certainly be able to dig into everything that Elizabeth covered at the end of the session if you have more questions. I think just before we invite Barry up, wanted to reiterate and mention that both Belnick and RealPage self-implemented, but their processes around the implementation were actually quite different. So we'll talk a little more about that as well. So with that, Barry Sobel from Belnick. There you go.
Okay, great. Good morning. My name's Barry Sobel. I'm the CFO of Belnick Incorporated. And just to give you a little background about Belnick, we're an office furniture reseller. We were founded in 2000 and one stepfather and stepson. Stepson was actually 14 years old when they started the company, and he basically built our websites at 14. Most of our, 70% of our business is from our own import line. We import from China, and about 30% of our business is from dropship vendors, U.S. manufacturers that drop ship for us. We're located in Canton, Georgia, which is about 30 miles north of Atlanta. We have a huge facility, 300,000 square foot warehouse. We have about 100 employees, and this year we'll do about $45 million in sales, and we run about 300 to 400 orders every day through our systems. So what are our channels of distribution? Well, we're basically e-commerce, and we have several e-commerce sites that go direct B2C, B2B. Whoever wants to come buy a chair, they come to these websites, and it's all we do point-and-click advertising with Google and other search engines. And our big daddy is bizchair.com, and now we're trying to do some niche sites like church chairs, stack chairs. Stack chairs are like the chairs you're sitting in today, folding chairs. And we just launched restaurant seating a site this week. And then we have a wholesale division called Flash Furniture, and that's our private label of our furniture. So when it comes out of our warehouse on the e-commerce sites, it's Flash Furniture. And we sell to other internet sites. We sell to office dealers. And our big customer on that side is Walmart and Sam's Club. Okay, cool. So what was our world before Salesforce? It wasn't pretty, let me tell you that. We had this front-end website, but that's basically where the technology ended. Once an order was submitted online from our customers, that's what we got, that piece of paper. And that's how we processed the order. And backlogs were determined by how much paper were on desks. And we had functions in our office called a runner, which would run the paper, the paper order between departments. Or if a customer called, hey, let me go get that order that's out in purchasing or the warehouse, and stop it before it ships. We had a spreadsheet entry. So at the end of the day, when the order was completely fulfilled, we'd enter a few pieces of data into a spreadsheet, about 10 fields, and that was our analytics. That's how we ran our business, these spreadsheets. And then we had integration. So what that was, we were using Great Plains, and when we had a person actually every hour basically push a couple buttons, integrate the orders in the Great Plains for the sole purpose of basically printing a picking ticket. And that person would print the picking ticket in batches and actually have to walk them out to the warehouse. So you can see there was a lot of inefficiencies, not a lot of analytics, but we did what a small business had to do. We had to get the job done, and this is what we did. So when I came in about a little over a year and a half ago, as I said, this is crazy. We got to get on a system. And I picked Salesforce. Why? Because I've used it before. I'm a fan of it. I think it's a great system. So what happened after we implemented? We had happy employees. Why do we have happy employees? Because we cut down all the admin work they were doing, all the paper forms they had to print out, all the manual process, gave them a lot more time than pushing paper, so they could focus on their customers. I mean, that's our wholesale manager. She was doing all these spreadsheets, all this paperwork, and she had no time to focus on the customer, and now she has time. So all our business processes are in one place. They're all on Salesforce. Now we have a 360-degree view of every order in the system. So it's not in a file cabinet. It's not on someone's desk. It's in Salesforce. And now we have at your fingertip data, dashboards. We have dashboards, how we're doing, what are the sales for the day, what websites are giving us the sales, what are our top products, what the profitability by vendor, any metric you want, we have it. And now we have a place where we can manage our work. So people, instead of working paper, they're working lists, the view list in Salesforce. They know how much work they have by the view they have in their Salesforce. So implementation. So we initially had a 2-month project plan, and we basically built our processes. All those manual processes we had, we basically built inside Salesforce. They weren't perfect, but we did it, and we launched July 2008. Basically, July 2008, we cut off the paper. No more paper orders, and we did every order through Salesforce. And then as we started going along, we started adding features to the org. We started to integrate with our logistics company, UPS, other LTL carriers. We started to do inventory tracking. We automated our credit card processing through an integration with our Salesforce and our credit card processor. We did EDI because Walmart required EDI, so all that's interfaced into Salesforce. We started to use the service. We did web to lead. We did email to case. And then lastly, I just discovered Visualforce email templates. And these are really cool because, in the regular email template, you only can grab from one object. But with the Visualforce email template, you can grab from multiple objects. And it's pretty cool. And I could launch it through workflows, and so no one had to push a button to create a picking ticket. It just once the rule was set, it just fired off the picking ticket to the warehouse, so no more manual intervention. So the big other thing, so we did all this implementation, but the key thing is look at the times that it took. Months, weeks, days. With Salesforce, it doesn't take a lot of time. It just doesn't. It's fast. It's easy. You can do it quick, and you can just launch and just reiterate on the fly and just change your orgs as you need it. So these are the business processes we basically did inside Salesforce. And we've color-coded it to say what's inside, 100% inside, native in Salesforce, versus processes we integrated with other third parties, and what's outside. So what's completely outside is we still have our Yahoo websites. We didn't change that. Actually, when people call and they're placing an order with a CSR in our office, the CSR actually uses a Yahoo store. It's just easier. It's a shopping cart. It's easier. But once the order's placed, it's all put through Salesforce, from the credit card to the picking ticket to purchase orders to sending email tracking. All that's done through workflows and emails, and all that's done in Salesforce. Again, we do all our inventory in there. So all the purchasing we do over in China is all done through Salesforce. So because we're doing the ins and outs, the sales items and the purchase items, we get to roll that all up and do real-time inventory levels inside Salesforce. And I'm also bringing in cost data into the system, so that allows us to run profitability for any SKU, any vendor, any manufacturer, any customer. We have profitability of pretty much anything we want. And then we're actually also doing our AR management in there. So we actually want to know if a customer is not a credit card customer, we extend credit, do a purchase order. We actually invoice inside the system. It automatically generates an invoice. And we post all the payments. So we have a view of our over 60, over 90, and the collection person just has to focus on those lists. So I'm going to do a little demo for you, just in case you thought I'm crazy and I didn't do all that stuff. And I'm going to try to focus on more, the customer service rep and how they would handle a customer inquiry of an order or product availability and damages and collections. And I'll show you kind of the web to lead and web to case. Okay. Alt-tab. There you go. So here's our org. And you can see right off the bat, you log on and you have your dashboards. And how's Belnick doing today? Well, you can see how we're doing today. Okay, so I'm going to just show you our inventory, real-time inventory. So here's our real-time inventory. So anyone can get to this view. They could search a product by a SKU number, and basically, we have all the pictures of all our products, and you have the on-hand, the available quantity, if it's in backstock, if it's in back order, how many quantities are on order from a manufacturer, and the estimated arrival time of those goods. So all that's in Salesforce. And they can click through, on the record, and it basically, they can go right to the URL, right to the website where that is. They can see different attributes, the box sizes, the seat height, all the stuff, the pricing. And here's all the purchase items and sales items. And having all that in gives us the ability to do roll-ups and basically get this inventory level. So cases. So we're doing email to case and web to case. So cases come in either we have a form and the customer fills it out, submits it, it populates a case inside Salesforce. We also have email the case. They send to info@bizchair.com, and it creates a case. So this is the open list, and basically I'm going to go to a closed one to show you how they did it. So an email comes in through a web to case or email to case. Automatically, we fire it off, email back to the customer saying, thank you for your inquiry, we'll get back to you. And that's just automated. And that's really, it's so simple to set up because, basically Salesforce just gives you the wizard to set it up. So it's very quick. So it comes in, we auto-assign all our cases to a manager in the customer service department, and then she assigns it out to a representative. So this case came in, it was for this order number, the Yahoo order number, when's my order going to ship? And she finds it in the system because she does a search. You can do a search all, or you can just do by. And their orgs don't look, this is mine, and I have pretty much everything, so it's a little. But they basically just type in the order number, and it goes right to the order. There it is. And then they can go back to the case and link it. But basically, they can see that it was fully shipped. And how was it shipped? They just go down to the items, and they can see it was shipped on the 19th. It was shipped by Roadrunner. And when you go into an item, and I can't do it on this one, but if we had an item shipped by UPS, or one of our, Roadrunner is not one of our major carriers. Okay. Come on. Well, what I wanted to show you was, okay, great, here it is. So if we have tracking in here, this tracking right here, and it was UPS, they can click this link right here, and it will go out to UPS tracking and pop up their delivery right there. So they don't have to go to www.up, they just can do it right from Salesforce. So I think that's kind of cool. Okay. Anything else? And then I'll just show you. Some dashboards. This is a purchase order dashboard, so we do all our purchase orders in the system. So I can tell by just looking at this how many we've completed for the day, our backlog, the productivity of these people every day. So I couldn't manage them before. There was no way I could tell how many purchase orders they were doing in a day or the backlog. I could just see the paper on their desk. And now I have how many you do. And I tell you, you're not doing enough, or or you're doing a good job. We have a low backlog, so it's a great way to manage. And then this is our main dashboard. And again, it's all our sales for 30 days. Over here we have, warehouse versus drop ship, all our monthly sales. So, and the great thing now about Salesforce, it has this hover stuff. So if you haven't implemented that, you should try it. You should implement it. It's pretty cool. Okay. So I'll go back to my presentation. So results. Of course, we're more productive now. We can do more orders with less people. And from the the financial guy in the place, I like that, right? More to the bottom line. So we can track our orders better. We have less processing time, faster shipping time. We make better decisions. Now we have all this data. We have fast, reliable data, so we can make fast business decisions. If lines aren't moving, if we're not selling a lot, we can find out why and quickly. And we have better customer service because they have access to all this data. So they can inquire, get the questions answered. They don't have to pick up a phone. They don't have to call the warehouse or call purchasing. It's all in the system. The data's there for them. So lessons learned. Use App Exchange. Okay, I didn't start this by scratch. I went out to App Exchange. They had a sales order template already. They had different things. A lot of it's free or inexpensive, and you just got to explore and see what's out there that can fit your org. Do it yourself. What you saw, I basically did every customization in the system. And the only training I had was 4 years ago. I went to an admin class. So it's very doable. Anyone can do it. You don't need a lot of resources. The only thing, IT resources I had was a programmer to do all the integrations to Yahoo and to our logistics companies and to credit card processing. But it's great that there's such a tool that puts it into the business process, the business owner's hands, that they can do it. Because a lot of times you go into software, it's stuck in that land of IT, and it never gets out of it. You can't make changes. Having a tool that allows you to change it, it's pretty invaluable because you just can do fast changes and modify it as you need to, and you don't have to send off a request over to IT, and hopefully someday down the future you'll get it back. And then a big thing is user feedback. When you implement, just don't send it out there and say, "Oh, I hope it works. I hope it's good." Talk to your end users. Make sure they like it. Make sure the fields are where they want the fields. If they need other fields, are the pick lists right? Do they have the right values in them? Just don't think what you did is the greatest thing, because it's not. You got to get their feedback. And the great thing about Salesforce, each user can have their own look and feel. Like I have, for the same object, I can have 10 different page layouts because certain users like to work in certain manners. So you're not limited by any of that. And then lastly, just like Andrea said, they come out with releases every 3 months. You will find something in every release to improve your org, guaranteed. There's always something new that will improve it. So that's the great thing about Salesforce. They're always constantly improving their product. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. So just a couple things, and then we'll start with questions. So from a key takeaway standpoint, hopefully you heard two very different stories. I think certainly there is a strategy you can leverage to implement on your own if it suits your business, but certainly a lot of other companies choose that leveraging our partners or professional services are the right way to go for their particular organization. So you definitely want to put some thought into that. There's a ton of best practices out there that our implementation partners have been able to leverage because they do it so many times over. I think the point of the self-implementation is that it really is a straightforward and an easy process. I started working with Barry actually from a sales standpoint, and we were really, both Kevin and I were really impressed with how quickly he just jumped in and started building some of these things out on his own to really help drive the business. From Elizabeth's perspective, they had a little bit more structure and rigor around their implementation process, and the sandbox was critical to that. So certainly, Elizabeth's organization is closer to 1,000 employees. Barry's organization is 100. So you can see, different types of companies and the different approaches that they can leverage within the same system. So just a couple of takeaways. It really isn't just case management and customer support in the traditional fashion. You can leverage the call center process for help desk. So from a sales standpoint, for your lead generation, if you want to leverage it, you can do it for that. Typical service and support process, field service processes, and even things like order management and and those types of applications. So anything where you really want to drive a higher transaction process, you want to leverage the productivity tools around CTI integration, the console, the list views, to really bring that information together. Ease of administration and implementation, I think we talked about that quite a bit. We'll talk about it probably a little bit more. And really, I think that next bullet is interesting, that you really can build vision fast. So one of the things that I love about being a Salesforce employee is that it really is, it's so exciting to see our customers get excited about what it is they're capable of doing. And it's so quick. And I think as soon as you get in and you start playing with it, you really do realize how quickly it is to get things up and running, to optimize your systems and your productivity, and then to change it going forward if you need to, because I think that's really important as well. So some of that includes obviously custom objects, custom fields, the app exchange, all of those types of things. The integration, you don't want to have you don't want Salesforce to be a silo either. So thinking about how you move the data between your different systems. If you have spreadsheets or offline databases, move those into Salesforce, because then you can get that entire view. It doesn't have to be just typical CRM. It can be really anything. And then you're leveraging the security, the reporting, and all of those other tools we were talking about. And then I think just the last bullet, really, it is important to stay on top of the new releases. It is impressive, the amount of functionality that comes out, but it can be a little overwhelming as well, and you definitely want to know and balance that for your organization. So just a couple of slides here on the App Exchange. We're going to do a draw in a little bit, and it's from the App Exchange team. It's always growing and changing, and now it's actually 900 plus applications, so there you go. But you can just search and type in whatever it is you might be looking for and just see what the different options are that are available. Some of them, again, are free, built by Salesforce. Some of them are best-of-breed partners, but again, very much like if you went to the web or you went to you want to see reviews for a particular restaurant, we have the exact same structure so that you can go and you can see reviews of what other customers that have used that particular product think, and then all of the information around that particular vendor is there as well. And there's, star rating and all of those kinds of things also. So with that, I think we'll open it up to questions. Maybe just to kick things off a little bit, we thought we'd talk about a couple things that are more specific to each of the different implementations, starting with Elizabeth. Everybody always wants to understand in detail about data migration. That's always one of those key challenges when you're moving from one system to another. So I thought she could elaborate a little bit on that and what their strategy was there.
Really, our strategy was to do it quickly. So we used demand tools actually for the migration itself, and then we used demand tools to clean it. But again, all we migrated were the contacts. We migrated about 40,000 contacts over from our Siebel instance, and but we had to match them up with contacts that sales already had in the system, and then deduplicate it.
Great. And then Barry, what about? So from an implementation standpoint, you did it all yourself. If you had to do it again, what would you do differently?
I mean, that is a tough question. It's hard to say. I liked how we implemented. You could say maybe I should have done more planning, should have, tried to map things out better, but I didn't. And I think it works out because Salesforce is so easy just to get going, jump in, start building, implement, and you just get the results back and the feedback, and you change what doesn't work, and you just can do it fast. So,
okay. Well, why don't we open it up to the audience? I don't think we actually. Oh, there's a microphone in the middle, so you can, if you want to stand up, if you have any questions for Barry and Elizabeth.
Barry, I have a question for you. For say the integration between Yahoo stores and Salesforce.com, did you use do it custom, or did you use some sort of an integration?
we did a custom. Basically, what Yahoo sends is an HTML email of the order, and we have a .NET middleware that basically dissects the order and pushes the data into Salesforce through an API.
So I would assume you use the enterprise edition?
Yeah, we use we do some enterprise and some platform. So we have both.
Oh, the seats, right?
Yeah.
But I think and Elizabeth, you're unlimited edition, is that right?
No,
Or
we're
enterprise?
We're
So
actually
both.
unlimited too. So
Oh,
we do unlimited and platform.
Great. Next question.
I haven't had that come up, so I can't speak to that.
More from partners, so if you're...
Right. We really haven't had that issue. We have actually acquired several companies that have Salesforce, and we've used Salesforce to Salesforce for that in the interim until we can get them into the main instance.
Okay. But I certainly think, dependent on your model, that's something that's becoming more and more popular, and I think Salesforce's functionality around that as well is also growing, so that you really can, for the people in the audience that don't know what Salesforce is, you can transfer data or transfer records between different instances of Salesforce and lock it down from a security standpoint to say, I want to share this with my distributor, but I'm only going to share 2 fields, and then you end up with real-time updates based on that information. So it can be a really powerful tool based on the business need. Next question.
Hi, this question is for Elizabeth. You mentioned you would have trained your managers on reporting. I'm just interested if you could elaborate a little bit more around what specifically were you looking to give them, and what did it look like at the end? Or what would you apply to them?
For the manager training, it was like a quick overview because we were so focused on the agent. So when we went to do the training for the managers, it was just like, oh yeah, and here you go, and this is the wizard, and you can do the reporting. I mean, it was a little more to it than that, but not much. And so I think that probably we would have been better out of the gate if we had really just, had a little more structure to the training, and shown them a little more, because they were so used to crunching numbers in Excel that they were ready to extract the data and put it in Excel, and I was like, no. So it just would have been a little more structured.
The reporting is interesting, too. I've heard a lot of companies talk about, if you think about IT in the business, especially if you're just rolling out an implementation, it is nice as part of that process to have some of those reports built. Some people will definitely jump in and build and create their own reports or manipulate them, but others won't. And I think it's nice to have some of that information available already. It is actually a great tool if you think about, there's always the discussion of what does sit in IT, and there's really some lower level data modeling through the custom record types that certainly an IT team would typically manage and control, and then that just makes the entire structure available for your end users that are going to be doing reporting. But that said, some executives in particular, I've talked to many companies who've said, I don't want to create reports, I just want them to be there, even though it is easy to do. And then once you have that adoption and people are comfortable with it, then I think they start to realize that they can point and click and work their way around. But it sometimes takes a little while to get that going. Next. We'll get here first.
Did either of you all integrate your website traffic or your very, especially you have people coming in and were you able to take the page views and things? I didn't see that reported in your dashboard. Was that not important?
We do have the page they come in that is brought into Salesforce. We don't do a lot of market, the advertising analytics. We kind of do that on Google's analytics, so we don't do a ton of that in Salesforce.
Tie that back to customers, how they came in.
We do, but I think our marketing team uses other tools to do that.
We are actually implementing Marketo this quarter to be rolled out in January, and that will give us that functionality, and so we plan to do it with that.
Great.
I have a very basic question, because I'm coming from a little bit of a different world, a nonprofit.
Okay.
And we haven't used Salesforce yet, but we're going to be switching over.
Great.
And I see the possibilities to be pretty great. And I have thousands of volunteers pretty much around the state.
Uh-huh.
I love what you were talking about with the email keys and the web keys, but I'm just wondering if they're not going to be users, obviously, and they're going to want to have discussions. So my question is, how do they access a customer portal? Do they go onto our website, or do they have to go on the Salesforce, or how does...
Yeah, that's a great question. No, that's a great question. So the customer portals would, your customers or whoever that end user is, would be accessing it through your website, and they would have their username and password that they would log in with. And then they would see a view, and we don't, I should have, a screenshot of a portal would have been potentially a good call here, but you can really brand those portals to look and feel however you want them to, and you push out whatever data you want to. They really end up just being an extension of your internal team. So you have the exact same profiles and security, but you're just choosing what you're going to be sharing with them. So you can, and again, this is a lot of what we're talking about really is core to the Enterprise Edition or Unlimited Edition. You know, these things are a little harder to do within the Professional Edition, just so, you know, level set that for the people in the audience. But that really does allow you to take that data, push it out. It can look and feel exactly the way you want it to, so it doesn't really look like they're logging into Salesforce, but it's a real-time connection. So anytime, you know, the case is created or the data comes in, they can automatically see it. And there's also a couple of pricing models as well around how you optimize that based on traffic and the number of users that are going to be logging in. But it absolutely is just an extension of your website. And you can also, just to take that one step further, there are some use cases that are nice for unauthenticated information, and the Sites technology allows you to do that. So, you know, from a volunteering standpoint, Starbucks is the one we use all the time, but if you go to Pledge 5, that's all built on Sites technology and the customer portal. So when they log in, they're going into our portals, but we're pushing information to the site from Salesforce that's tracking the number of hours that, you know, people in the United States are volunteering. And that's just a ticker that changes all the time. And all of the detail around volunteering events and around, you know, how you want to drill in for your region, for how you know, what you might want to volunteer for, is all coming from Salesforce, and it's all available real time to the website. And then, you know, that next step, if they want to sign up, you can log in and continue the process. So that's pretty cool too. That's a good question. Hi. Go ahead.
Either of you are considering CTI technology and screen posts, and how you're going to decide whether and when to make that investment?
And I think Elizabeth actually talked about that as being one of the next steps. Do you want to address that?
So the question is, how are we going to make that decision, or when?
Well, I guess you've already made the decision, but
Right.
when you decide it's time to do that, and the ROI will be there.
I think when they saw the productivity boost that the implementation into Salesforce gave, and the time saving, just faster call times, you know, we didn't have the hourglass going all the time, and the productivity boosted, then to see that CTI, the potential of productivity boosting again with CTI integration, I think that's where the decision, you know, was made.
And I think call volume has a lot to do with that as well. I mean, there's a call volume from a cost standpoint as well as a customer satisfaction to know that, you know, before you pick up that phone or before you start speaking, you know exactly who that person is. You know what cases they've logged. You know what opportunities their company has in process. So you can absolutely decide when you take a look at that contact record, what is that critical information that you want to have, you know, that your agents need to have at their fingertips. So there's a pretty big ROI on it for, I would say, pretty much any company that has any type of call center, unless it's just a few, you know, for some reason, a few calls or what have you. Does that address the question? Sure.
I've looked at it. I would think it would be a great thing to have for our call center. I've kind of put my network guy on it to get me information. Obviously, it comes down to me dollars and cents, and doesn't make sense. I think it'd be great for all the reasons Andrea said, and I know the current phone system we have can do it, and I'm basically investigating it.
So maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll do the draw in the middle.
We're looking at bringing our inventory. We have it currently in an Access database, but moving it over into Salesforce. So what was the old system that you had for tracking your inventory, and how did you get all of that over into Salesforce?
Well, it was Great Plains, and it was not that good. So, but basically, you know, I just created an object, warehouse products, and just brought in all my SKUs and started with I guess I should back up. If you're not going to do all the order processing and all the receiving inside Salesforce, you got to bring it in from, I guess, the place where you do all that stuff. So are you going to do that, or so you're going to do all just like we did?
Yes, pretty much.
So basically, once you create that object, the product object, and you have all your receiving and all your shipping, you do the roll-up formulas, and you just have to start with a number. So you basically do a physical, and you just put that number in, and you just use the roll-ups from that date after. And then as you do, like we do quarterly physicals, and then you just change the roll-up date to start from that date. And the one mistake I did do is I wanted to use products, like the standard product. Don't, because you need to have, like, everyone needs an unlimited license then. If you do your own custom object, and probably they don't want to hear this, but use platforms, because then they can see the custom object. They can't see regular products.
So just for everyone in the room, a platform seat is accounts, contacts, and then anything custom. So if you're not doing typical CRM, then the platform license is a really nice way to go. So for these other types of things that you might do with Salesforce, that's typically a great license to leverage. So maybe one last question, and then we'll do the draw if there's one more. Okay.
Barry, how difficult was it to bring in the shipping, your courier companies, FedEx, UPS, and so forth? Aside of the custom ones, but bringing in the tracking number.
We used a company called Oz Development, and they and they have a tool called OzLink, and it basically happened in 2 weeks. They basically set up a little toolbar, and they create the API between Salesforce and the shipping program. So you actually put the shipping program on your desktop, and they create the API between Salesforce and the shipping manager. And you just click the little icon, it pushes the data, their user interface comes up, and then you actually print the label from their interface, and then it pushes the tracking back into Salesforce.
And just to add to that just a little bit, any field in Salesforce that you create, whether it's standard or some of the custom ones like you saw from that Barry showed you, are immediately available in the API. So that's what makes it really easy to integrate to these other systems, and you have that API that allows you to do that. So, great questions. Thank you. Hopefully you found that session valuable. So our App Exchange partners have a couple of giveaways. So we'll have Kevin come up. Did everybody put their card in?
Yeah, if you could raise your hand if you need to put a card at the bottom.
Oh, wow.
So we have a vest, App Exchange vest, and a flip video, which is kind of neat. Here. I guess I could have helped you. Here, you go get the one in the back. Great, thanks. Oh, here. Thanks. Okay. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Do you want? Let's shake them up. I'll let you guys do the drawing. All right. So this one will be for the vest.
Chris McDaniels with Imaginations.
Yay.